Mr. President, South Africa is the co-host country of this year's FOCAC.
Yes.
When we talk about the economy, of course, we're not just talking about our own economies these days anymore. It's about how together we can do the win-win result. What do you see as the significance of this year's meeting at a critical juncture, apparently, when you have geopolitical changes going on quite dramatically in the world?
Yeah.
And when you have a huge debate about where the world to go, whether it's about trade mechanism or it's about partnerships, Mr. President.
Well, this year's forum for cooperation between China and Africa is a very important one, because it comes at a time in the world geopolitics where there are quite a number of people who are trying to break down the multilateral system, who are trying to be unilateral in what they do. This meeting is going to confirm that we believe in a multilateral system, and multilateral institutions must be strengthened rather than weakened, and we must utilize them to address challenges and problems that the world faces. Now, for us, it is also important to have China as a partner in all this, because China is playing a very constructive role on the African continent in helping the African continent to develop, but not develop only as a country that wants to take resources, but as a partner. China is an equal partner to all the countries that are part of this FOCAC meeting. And it's a partner in development. It's a partner in economic growth. It's a partner in advancing the interests of all the countries in Africa, as well as China itself. So for us, it is important that we enhance the partnership, particularly because Africa has now signed an Africa Free Trade Agreement. We're going to utilize that as a platform to advance the interests of African countries, and also, of course, to advance the interests of China. So there is a very strong platform on which we can build our cooperation with China.
How to make sure those wonderful goals and nature of the relationship be able to be implemented on very specific projects so that people on both sides really enjoy the benefits of this beautiful relationship. Mr. President, I understand Belt and Road Initiative, for example, is one of the initiatives that China and South Africa are working on together.
Yes.
Particularly, South Africa is an important nation among the maritime Silk Road. Mr. President, how do you see this idea, first of all? I mean, it's only 5 years in the making, right?
Yes.
Since the very beginning of being raised up, that initiative, to now, where is it according to your assessment, particularly if you look at the cooperation from both sides about connectivity as a general concept?
Well, the Belt and Road Initiative is an important one, not only for China, but also for South Africa, because we see that as strengthening the relationship between the two countries. But it is also based on a number of important pillars, and the pillars of the various agreements that we've got with China around a number of other areas of infrastructure build, of investment, of trade, and the Belt and Road initiative then comes on top of all this and cements and strengthens all these relationships. And with that, we also want to see implementation, because we just don't want to end up at making announcements. We want to see how the undertakings, the agreements are implemented. And for us, that is what matters most, because as our dealings are at a people-to-people level, we want to see the peoples of South Africa and China cooperating, mixing, visiting each other,
Right.
tourists going backwards and forwards between our two countries. We want to see the trade relations being balanced so that we sell to each other what is wonderful, that what we all need, manufactured goods, resources, commodities, so that there is no trade imbalance or deficit between our two nations, and that is what we think will strengthen the relationship, the skills development, the scientific dealings between the two of us, the maritime dealings, and all those investments that we want to see happening between Chinese companies and South African companies are what is going to strengthen the relationship, so that if there is any difficulty in the future, it is quickly solved and easily resolved. And that is what makes up a good relationship between two nations.